I'm gonna get a little sentimental today. I recently graduated college, having studied media production, and my time there has left me reflective of what led to my current trajectory. When I started making YouTube videos some 10 years ago, I only did so on a whim, but before long I couldn't get enough of it. I never seemed to care that the majority of my work was utter garbage because the process of producing it was what satisfied me. I'd grin at the opportunity to try something new and then go wild teaching myself everything I could about it. While I was at school, I met a number of people who were unbelievably talented, individuals who could run circles around me with their knowledge of production and editing, and this only fueled my desire to get better. When I was a freshman, I was armed with what more or less amounted to the bare essentials of production. A by then already outdated Sony camcorder, a Blue Yeti, and a budget copy of Sony Vegas that was old enough to still support Windows Vista. It had taken me 6 years to amass this rig, and I was perfectly satisfied with it. But my setup was so apparently pitiful that on the first day of an editing class my junior year, my professor legitimately made fun of it and immediately dismissed me as a casual. Coincidentally, that was his only semester as an adjunct at the university. I got a lot of mileage out of that camera before upgrading to a budget DSLR and before teaching myself Adobe Premiere. Even then, I only made the switch when I felt good and ready to do so and still had to teach myself how to operate both pieces of equipment. My point with the sob story is rather simple. There are a ton of would-be YouTubers out there who have incredible stories to tell, or at least the potential to one day do so. But a lot of them are being held back by the same philosophical errors, which are the beliefs that they need better equipment or that the tech is more important than the craft. Expensive cameras and microphones are nice, there's no denying that, but what good are they if your skills don't match up to the quality? Bad writing will always be cringy whether it's in 4K or not, and choppy editing doesn't suddenly become Oscar-worthy just because you color-corrected in DaVinci Resolve. I understand that every YouTube startup has the desire to set the world asunder with high-quality content, but I think it's worth reminding everyone that high quality doesn't necessarily mean high fidelity or even high tech. Take Racevic for example, one of my nearest and dearest of friends. Despite having a mouth-watering 100,000 subscribers, he still records his voiceovers on a USB mic and uses a sock as a pop filter. He also still uses Audacity, which is a free program, and yet his content still manages to be utterly jaw-dropping because of his insight. He's dedicated to squeezing every last bit of potential out of his equipment, and the effort shows. I've also seen people who are afraid to even get started because they're convinced that they aren't good enough to stand out. Some of the most creative people I've ever met have fallen victim to this, and it genuinely hurts to see how discouraged they are. For every quality video you see on YouTube, there's bound to be a handful of exceptionally bad ones from that same content creator. After all, we're only human. Perfection may be unattainable, but it's an ideal we should strive towards despite its impossibility. I acknowledge that I'm not the smartest or the most clever content creator out there, but I welcome that fact as my opportunity to try and find a balance between having fun and being a professional. I like to look at YouTube as a place to have your work cataloged so that you can look back at your progress and be proud of how far you've come. Good equipment can obviously be a part of this journey towards improvement, but I believe it's more important to focus on the fundamentals before trying to familiarize yourself with tech you might not need yet. It's also worth mentioning that it's understandably impractical to want to invest a small fortune in these tools if you're only just starting out and have little to no audience. An inexpensive mic and your iPhone is a perfectly valid way to start your content creating career. After all, your ability to develop your creative skills is what's more important anyway. It's also completely untethered from financial impact, so there's no excuse not to focus on it. So in summary, my advice to burgeoning content creators is to hit the ground running and learn the ropes along the way. I've probably picked up more from making YouTube videos as a hobby than I did in my time as a comm student. That's not to say I didn't have a great time at college, or that I didn't have a number of incredible professors while I was there, but I always found myself reliant on what I had learned on YouTube as a viewer and a content producer. Don't be afraid to put something out and have it fail. As long as you keep at it and grow from your experiences, you're bound to carve out your own niche eventually. And if you're doing this because you're passionate about editing or whatever subject matter your videos are about, then you should try your hardest to never lose sight of that, viewers be damned. After all, what's the point in making videos if you don't even like them? I hope you enjoyed today's essay. I'd love to hear from my fellow video makers about your experiences on the site, as well as whether you agree with me or not. And if you want updates on my channel, feel free to follow me on Instagram or Twitter. I also post live action sketches on my other channel, New Wave, so check that page out too if you're curious. And as always, have a great day.